All right, Happy New Year. We're back. A bit of a loud gym today, but that's all right. So someone online asked if I would talk about tilting. It was like to be up on. When we started learning, there was a lot of this. Now, there happens to be a coach, a very well-known wheelchair basketball coach, somewhere north of here, who I've heard refer to tilting as old school. He knows who he is. Wouldn't dispute that. It may be old school, it may not, I don't know. But it certainly is a skill that I still use. On offense and on defense. But today I just want to talk about some of the simple cues that I remember from back in the 90s when I was learning. Now that was a pretty exciting time to be playing. There were some very significant innovations that happened in the mid-90s. High pointers really started strapping a lot more tightly into the chairs. And pretty soon after that, the fifth wheel was allowed, which really changed the specs on the chairs and how people set up their chairs, which just led to more dynamic types of play and chair movements, including tilting and hopping. And I was really lucky. I was, a teenager, 16 or so, when I remember going down to the University of Whitewater, Wisconsin, and working out with guys like Joey Johnson, Troy Sachs. I think Glassbrenner was there already. And then some lower pointer guys too, like Mel Jewett and E. Barber. And everybody was tilting all over the place in wise ways, in foolish ways. It was amazing. I remember Troy working on some move where he would fly down the court, and then at half he'd lift up onto his front casters and then glide on his front casters for another 30 feet until he's under the basket. Something crazy like that for all I know he did do in a game at some point. But it was sort of the Wild West and of those skills and exploring what could be done, and it was a lot of fun to be around as a kid, and I've always felt very fortunate that I was there and around those guys at a young enough age where I could really absorb it into my game and get a handle on it. That being said, though, it wasn't until I went to Illinois in the late 90s, 97 I guess, and really started working on a daily basis that I got better at it. And let me just share a few cues for you. One thing to think about is that it's a lot easier to go fast in a circle than it is to control your tilt and hold it. So when we started learning, it was a lot of this. And Frogley, who was at Illinois by that time, was very indulgent when he had pulled in the guys in practice for a huddle and wanted to tell us something, explain 2-on-2 shadow this or 3-on-3 shadow that. It was a lot of shadow. We would all be tilting, falling over, and he was actually cool with that because he knew we were just trying to get better. So as long as we were sort of paying attention, he was fine with it. But over time, this movement sort of slowed down little by little, to the point where the challenge was who could hold it as still as possible. The other piece of that, and this is a cue I've heard Frog mention, is to keep your weight back over your back wheel. So even though I'm sort of leaning forward sometimes, partly just because I'm shy and I'm making a video in the gym, but you'll find maybe it easier if you lean back, keep your weight over your back axle. Now this is something that we didn't do, but I've seen people do this, or coaches or players try this, and that's to start up against a wall. So you can either pop up against the wall yourself or have someone help you pop up. And I guess the idea is you just sort of feel it out and you get used to what it feels like to be up on one wheel on your front caster without the inconvenience of falling over. That makes sense to me. That sounds like a good step in the learning process. However, at some point, you're going to have to make peace with the fact that you're going to fall. And I don't think it's really possible to learn how to tilt and tilt well if, oh, that's nice, if you're not willing to fall a few times. Well, I should be honest, not just a few times, but many, many times. And I still fall when I tilt sometimes, but that's just how it goes. If you want to have that skill in your tool belt and use it, comes with some risks. So that is a basic introduction, as I would see it, to tilting. And don't hurt yourself too badly. Next week we'll be back with something, I don't know, something with a ball maybe. Okay, see ya.